we're going to be looking at functions and graphs. And I want you to remember that functions are just equations. Functions are equations. Equations that have inputs and outputs. Okay, earlier this year, we've already looked at input-output tables. We made big T-charts for them. Remember how we found the rule that went with it? And then we plug values in. Okay, well now we're going to take it another step. We're actually going to plot those ordered pairs on a graph. So you've already done this part before. Okay, now we're going to then put it in ordered pairs and then graph them. Your X term, remember we called the input, can also be called the domain. And I believe we talked about this earlier. The Y is called the output, or it can also be called the range. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to copy down this chart, or this table, and we're going to plug in some values for X. I'll give you a moment to get that copied down. When we get finished, we're going to state the domain and the range. The domain are your X values, and the range are your Y values. But we'll do that after we complete our table. Okay, so we're going to plug in some values, and you're going to say, Mrs. Roberts, where are you getting these values? And I'm just coming up with them. I'm going to keep some numbers fairly small, but I'm going to include positives and negatives and 0. So I'm going to do -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Do you always have to use those numbers? No, but it's a nice set of numbers to start with. When you're graphing it on a quadrant grid, which we're going to do here in just a moment, you want to be careful because you don't want to pick too big of numbers because they don't fit on your graph or your grid. All right, now let's show your workspace. I'm going to take 2, and what am I going to plug in for X? A -2 plus 1. Okay, so this is your workspace. You might need to make a bigger box for this one. What is 2 times -2? Good job, -4 plus 1. -4 plus 1. -3. I owe somebody $4. I have 1. I'm going to pay off I'm going to pay some of my debt, and I'm still going to owe $3. So my ordered pair is -2, comma, -3. Okay, turn to your partner, and you all plug in a -1. Do the next one. And see what you get for your Y value or your output. Okay, what did you get when you plugged the -1 in for X? What did you get when you plugged -1 in for X? Okay, -2 plus 1. So my ordered pair is -1, -1. Okay, the next one, 2 times 0 plus 1. What's 2 times 0? 0 plus 1 is 1. So this ordered pair is 0, 1. Okay, the next one I'm taking 2 times 1 plus 1. So 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I get 1, comma, 3. Okay, all I'm doing, JJ, is I'm plugging in this value for X into my rule. I'm plugging a 2 in for my X. So 2 times 2 plus 1 gives you 5. And then we're just writing the X and the Y as your ordered pair, 2, 5. Okay, so now we've made our T-chart or our input-output table. This is our workspace where we've plugged in values for X. Where did I get the values for X? I just made them up. Okay, I like to include some negatives, some positives, and try to include 0. Plug them into your rule and see what your output is. Remember how we had the function machine? Earlier this year, you put a number in, there's a rule. Well, the rule here is 2x plus 1, and I'm going to throw a -2 in. What comes out? A -3. I throw a -1 in. What comes out? A -1, and so forth. Okay, show me fist to 5. Ready to move on? Okay, now I want you to make a grid, and you can just sketch your grid like this on your paper. and make little hash marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now we're going to plot our ordered pairs. The first one is -2, -3. And which way to go first? Left. I have to get on an elevator first. -2, -3 means I'm going down. 1, 2, 3. Put a dot there. Okay, we'll go to the next one. -1, -1. Go to the left one, down 1. Now I have 0, 1. Okay, so I stay at 0 and I go up 1. 1, 3. And 2, 5. What do you notice? In a line, that's correct. So if you have a straight edge, it means like a straight piece of paper, connect those, and this is a linear function. It is a straight line. It is a linear function. Okay, now let's go back and we'll state the domain. The domain that we have for this one is our list of numbers that we have for the x. So what is our domain? That's correct. So domain, you put the set of -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Whoops. And the range, -3, -1, 1, 3, and 5. Now that is the domain and range for the table that I was given. Okay, they're stating the domain is your x values, your range are your y values. And this one does make a linear function or linear graph. We're going to only pick 3 values to plug in for x just because we're going to try to do several different problems. So here's your x. What is our rule? So right here, x minus 1. Then here's your y, and then this is your ordered pair, xy. And let's plug in values -2, 0, and 2. Now, if those can make too big of numbers where they don't fit on your graph, then change it to a -1 and a +1. Okay, you can do that. So now what am I going to do here? -2 minus 1. What's the rule when I subtract? Mark, mark. So it's -2 plus a -1 gives you -3. And what's your ordered pair? -2, -3. Really reviewing those integer rules. Next one, 0 minus 1 is a -1. So I have 0, -1. And turn to your partner and figure out the last one. Okay, so I have 2, plug in a 2 for x, minus 1, and I get a +1. So I have 2, 1. Okay, now what's my next step? What am I going to do? Graph it. Okay, so I have -2, -3. Do it on your grid paper. 0, -1, and then 2, 1. Okay, and then connect them. When you make your line, go all the way through your graph, all the way through your grid, please. Extend it on out. And so this is a linear function, x minus 1. That's the name of it. Y equals x minus 1. Makes a straight line and a linear function.